So we're going to see footage of Radcliffe's Tower Castle. There's one called Tower Farm in Greenmount. These were documented during the time just after the Norman invasion, so that's 1066. We'll see two castles that are separate in a minute in the centre of Bury. The top one is a more modern one. The bottom one was hid just 1 inch beneath the surface for over 400 years. On Manchester, UK. 3 videos of time. I'm Stephen Goddard. You may know that, you may not know that. So, trying to prove something about castles and old structures. And I read on the internet, or some of the papers I've been reading, you will find Masonic marks in older stones. And they reuse them sometimes. Look, this would have been underwater because it's part of the moat at one point. And there was an old ancient Masonic mark there. Not sure of who or what that means, but that's what I'm looking for. And also to prove some evidence of castles and put an argument forward. This is the site of a fortified manor house known as Bury Castle. Begun in 1469 by Sir Thomas Pilkington, Lord of the Manor of Bury. I'm going to go into that in more details, the names of the people. We had de Bury, de Radcliffe, Pilkington, Holt. There's a few names, they just go way back into history. Lord Derby, the Whiteheads. Castle Lane position of natural strength on high ground above the valley of the River Irwell, it's said. So this is what I'm trying to prove. There's another castle site they say is not a viable castle site, but it's been judged on people who've excavated, and they've gone around the country after the war. So the military have proposed sites for castles and said no, there isn't a castle here, it's not a viable site, but they've looked at it from a military standpoint. Now most of these aren't just the military, they're to keep you secure and your money secure. There's no banks, no police force, anything like that, so most things would be walled. So I'm just going to show if this is a viable castle site. I'm going to show evidence for my other castle site. As there is no evidence, I'm going to show you why I think it is a castle site the other place. This is surrounded by a moat, we'll see that. The inner face of the moat is lined with a stone wall which is strengthened with buttresses. Part of the buttressed wall is now exposed. The outline of the moat wall and the foundations of the tower house have been marked on the modern pavement. I filmed that. So Thomas Pilkington fought on the losing Yorkist side of the Wars of the Roses, after which his estates were confiscated, and in 1489 the manor of Bury was given to Lord Stanley, Earl of Derby. A lady actually presided over it for 50 years, but that's not written down, but that is true. As part of the de Bury family and the de Radcliffe family were caretakers of the land. Earl of Derby was not a resident in Bury, and consequently over the following centuries the disused castle was dismantled and the moat filled in, and the same with other castles. It all became buried. The castle was rediscovered in 1865 during excavations for drainage works. It remained buried, and when the drill hall was built over the corner of the castle remains, modern archaeological excavations were carried out, 1973 and 77. In 1999, the surviving visible remains were restored. That's what we're going to see. So I'm going to then carry on, and we'll get to the Castle Hill site, and I'm going to end where I'm up to with Castle Hill with some evidence that backs up what I'm trying to say. The only other people who've investigated it are proper military men who are like, no, this is no good, this is not a site, and off they go. No real evidence to prove there is not a site there. Now, the only thing I can liken to the situation I found myself in was something I read in an old magazine of mine, a scientific magazine. I was trying to actually relax, and that's what always happens, you find something interesting. So, we've been reading ancient texts from Egypt, and we know about Egypt. Another thing about Egypt is it doesn't pop up until the late 1800s really. Like in the 1800s everyone was Egypt mad. But until then it was Romans, Anglo-Saxons, we knew nothing about Egypt. I mean, it was formerly called Quebec. We knew nothing at all of Egypt, nothing about the Egyptians. It actually scared the first people to go over there, the archaeologists, people who discovered some of the first drawings, with eagles' heads on people and stuff, actually scared people because anyway, it was so alien to them. But still, people believe half or more of Egypt is still undiscovered. There's descriptions that have been tested. Texts and pictures from some old temples and tombs suggest that sites on both sides of the Nile were connected by canals, which I know, I've always said that. Just like the ones we have now with lock gates and stuff like that, I've filled in with sand. I've always said it, because you can't just not channel it from the Nile and have gates and all that. The ones we look at today, the ones I film, it's obvious. They were really advanced and they had loads of farmland like we do. So they could take a barge from one temple to another. So they're looking for these things. People believe under the sand there's loads more. So it's a canal. There's the Festival of the Valley, for example, state that the statues of the gods have been taken by barges to temples on the West Bank. So there you go. Someone's found writings of it but never found any evidence of it. The temple was originally on an island in the middle of the river. That's just one text the person read and it's drove him up the wall ever since he read it. That's University of Cambridge. What was the person's name? I should be able to remember it. Graham. Oh, I know a person. I can't think right now. Well, that's such a shame. To Professor Graham Angus Graham. That's the one. He's actually an expert in the Pharaoh Ramesses II. There's a statue in the middle of the desert, and it's on its own compared to some of the other monuments. So I feel his pain, basically, and I'm in exactly the same situation. I feel like I know it's there, but I don't know how to go about, sort of proving that or finding more. So just zooming in, across there, the single yellow bramble. It also lines the side of the road on both sides all the way up to the top of this hill. But you don't see them everywhere. There's some over near where I suggest there's a Roman site, which is near Ainsworth. And you might think, oh, I've seen these on the Pennines, but if you look very closely, you won't. And if you look at the fauna and the natural other things around here, you will not spot another one of these for miles and miles. So they're not as natural as you think. I think they're near fortifications because they're sharp, so they won't be easy to walk through. A bit like castles are surrounded by thorns in fairy tales. Talking of fairy tales, just gonna have a walk round. This is the old schoolhouse, and what we were previously looking at is the hangman's house. That's possibly as old as the site that we're trying to find. We just walk into these rather nice picturesque woods, and we'll see the site of the modern church through the woods, which would have been older sites also. Of course, a lot of it's been quarried, so that's been knocked down, and Woodgate Reservoir that would have required some things to be tunnelled through, and there's a farm and some houses at the bottom of that reservoir. But I'm mainly just trying to show you that all the fauna and wildlife in the area, flowers I mean, we haven't seen the yellow bramble. So let's just go straight back over to where I propose the castle site is. Here goes. Manchester, UK. Brief videos of time. We're just jumping straight into it. Okay. We have to go up here. The first piece of evidence for our castle. As I've said, I'll try and find some evidence of castle sites in the area. As we walk up, there's the brook of water. Now, we're going to have a path. Leads all the way up. Wide enough for a horse and cart. And steadily increases towards the top. But the sun's there. There's evidence that that's an old trail. Can you see it? Probably better that the sun is there. Then we'll just jump to the side so we can get a better view. Also, the yellow brambles that we find in these areas, they're not just wild. And then just over the side is almost like a moat. Certainly would have to climb up there to get to this site at the top. You would also have to come through that valley, which is an old quarry or mine. So the only way up would be up this little track. Okay, imagine guards all along the top or a little wall. This would be your only way in. So it's, even though it's lower down than the hilltop over there, you still have to come down through this trench. So it's not. So it is a good vantage point for a castle. So that's our path again. As we steadily increase our height, you see me walking along. And try and get the pathway. Because there is stone in there, you see. And the path carries on, look, goes round again. Definitely a path, even though it's not there anymore. Steadily going up round. And imagine if you were attacking this castle, you'd have to go in single file, which is not good. Still, you have to climb down that side, and that's the only other way in. I'm just going to try and prove this path's still here, that the sun's spoiling it. Just as you see over these brambles here, you will see why it is a very good place for a castle too. Remember, we're still on the old road. There's actually stones in it. I like to show these sort of things. There's definitely stones in the sides now too. As I've said, I know I was really excited when I first discovered this site, but this playlist ends here. Due to the coronavirus, I've had to take my time doing this. It's turned out to be quite fun, this Castle Hill site. But until I get some more advanced equipment, I suppose, more information, all I can do is leave it as a rumour. So the experts say it's not a viable site, but Just look at that view for a viable site of all Manchester. But you can probably see the coast all the way around the Pennines. And the only bad vantage point is that hill, which is the centre of Birtle. And this would be Birtle Castle, so there's no threat from that hill. So it looks like what's happened is British Heritage have tried to evaluate all roundhouses, castle sites, things like that, put a stamp on it and then leave it. But this one said no, it's not a very good site, it's totally wrong. It's just totally wrong. So it is a bull field. I'm just going to show you the last bit. Yeah, the last bit technically is that mound. So my playlist now, anything to do with Romans, Anglo-Saxons, anything else, I've got to start finding artefacts. And I know now, and I'm not saying anything more, but I've seen how to do archaeological digs where you go down 10 centimetres at a time and you have to keep all your pottery so you can date it. Each layer goes down, 10 years, 50 years, whatever you want. So you can actually date the things you find and get evidence that there was a settlement there. But until then, here we have the brow of the hill. So that's almost lit up like the Holy Grail. That would be the outside castle wall. That is the outside castle wall. I've put my case forward now. That is, I believe this is a viable site for a castle, and there's strong evidence to suggest there is something here. And just over this wall is where the castle is buried, in that field. It's almost like the king's horses are out in the field there, and the castle is totally under that field. As if by magic, Manchester. Here I am. And I'm not going to run around like a wild animal this time. As I said, it's been an interesting little playlist, this Castle Hill. Started off knowing nothing, went through moments of slight euphoria. Incidentally, there's the path that would lead up. All you need really is one stone that's old, just one coin, anything. Anyway, so Castle Hill, castle site, no more information. Remember, it could be a tower house like the one that's down in Radcliffe. The Radcliffe, I did film that once, that's from before the year 1000. And that's a very low down site, that's a bad place for a castle compared to this. And it's called a tower as opposed to a castle. Yeah, we've got the banking there. I can see things on the other side of the field, there's a mound. So this is not Lord Derby, Lord Stanley. This is Birtle, it's separate land from the rest of everywhere in the area. Some posts over there, but I can't just go chopping away at the land forever. I think it was interesting enough, and even more interesting, I'm actually stood on the castle right now. Yeah, it's actually a wall under here. So, as usual, peace out Manchester, UK. Take care. This is the very end of this playlist now. I'd like to dedicate the playlist to the people not only who fought in the Second World War, the people who went through the Second World War, wherever you came from, you know, whatever age you may be. You know, this is dedicated to the people who went through the Second World War. And thank you very much.